again. Welcome to World Have Your Say, back next to Buckingham Palace. Last year it was for the wedding of William and Kate, and we're back for William's grandmother, Queen Elizabeth. This is her home. It's not a normal day at home. As you can hear in the background, we've got rehearsals getting ready for a whole weekend long of celebrations for 60 years on the throne. We're talking about the Diamond Jubilee, of course, and we're going to try and understand over the next hour why the Queen isn't just very popular here in Britain, but is also popular in many, many different parts of the world. And wherever you are watching the BBC, you're very welcome to join us. Thanks very much to Aaron, very much part of BBC royalty, I'd say. Well, welcome back to Buckingham Palace. The rehearsals are carrying on for Monday's concert. In a moment, we're going to be live in Delhi, in Nairobi, and also in New York. But first things first, let me introduce you to two guests who are joining me here. Nelson Abe is a writer with The Voice newspaper and the Evening Standard, which is the main evening paper here in London, and Francesca Danmalay is with the Commonwealth. You're a youth representative. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Are you feeling the excitement?
Absolutely. Can't miss it, as you can hear.
Well, I suppose it's compulsory excitement here, isn't it? But before you arrived, were you feeling it, or and if you are, why?
Yeah, there is a general feeling of excitement throughout London. I would like to think throughout the United Kingdom, and you just can't, absolutely, it's electric, it's totally there. It just can't be missed, so I'm totally feeling it, yeah.
But why?
I think things like the Jubilee create opportunities for people to come together through street parties, in the communities, and I think that that's a good thing. That's a good thing for the UK.
Shall we say that the Queen and the Monarch are a vehicle through which the British celebrate who they are, or is it more about the Queen herself?
Yeah, it's a vehicle of the way in which, indeed, in which we celebrate who we are. There is a degree of obviously a bit of obvious cult of personality for the Queen too, but it also gives us the opportunity to challenge who we are. So there will be a massive demonstration against the Queen's rule on Sunday afternoon, which will actually give a different perspective to it. But overall, I get the impression that the country is largely pro-monarchy and very, very much in favour of the Queen too. So, yeah.
All right, good to have you both here. You're going to be staying with us for the hour. Those of you watching, see if you can name this tune. There's a challenge for you. Email us, worldhaveyoursay@bbc.com. I've heard it about 7 times, and we may be hearing it a little bit more. Now, let's bring in Rachid. He's live with us from Delhi. You're an architect. You were tweeting about the Queen's Jubilee, and we invited you onto the programme. Hi, Rachid. What's your point?
Hi. Actually, I think that in India, we are very indifferent to this monarchy, British monarchy, especially my generation. It's like our grandfather, etc., they were much more interested in that because India is almost as equal as the Queen's reign, 60 years almost. But in my generation, I think that we should, we are very indifferent to this concept of Diamond Jubilee. I think we should might as well get our diamonds back, the Kohinoor diamonds, which you guys took when you went there. And I think in the Commonwealth also, though India participates, but there are many countries like Australia, Canada, etc., which are much more associated with the Commonwealth than are in like my country. I can only speak about that. The next thing is that what I feel is about this concept of monarchy. India was ruled by many princely states, etc., etc., and we had thousands of kings and queens. But we took that from you guys, the central power. Now, I think that is this concept. We took your constitution, etc. Everything we took it from you guys, but.
Roger, let me jump in here. I mean, it is interesting to compare the way the British monarchy operates with how monarchies elsewhere operate. But I'd like to pick up on your first point. Macaw is a blogger based in New York. Very good to have you with us here at Buckingham Palace. Do you agree with Ratchet that there's a generational split? Older people are very affectionate towards Queen Elizabeth, younger people less so.
You know what, I am, as an overall sort of point, I can feel the electricity that you guys are feeling in London. I do agree to a certain extent that there is a generation split. I kind of have
mixed feelings towards the Queen, right? On one hand, I admire her and the family that she's come from, but on the other hand, I have a huge problem with the monarchy as well. But overall, as one of the commentators mentioned earlier, I'm excited about the celebration. I can't wait to see all the fantastic outfits. I'm excited to see the fascinators, and I want to see what carriage the Queen is going to ride in on. That's what I'm really excited about.
You know, I can't promise you any fascinators. That's not guaranteed with this Diamond Jubilee. You'll have to wait and see if you get any of that. Your best chance for a fascinator, the procession on Tuesday, but we've got a lot of things to happen between now and then. Let me just quickly bring in Nelson here. You've got family back in West Africa. Do you think that for West Africans, for the older generation, the Queen means much more than perhaps younger people?
Bizarrely, the Queen does. I mean, in Nigeria, I think the Queen, in large parts of Nigeria, the Queen has probably been more popular in Nigeria than she would probably be in the United Kingdom. My mum, for example, has all the royal memorabilia you can think of on the walls, from Princess Diana to the Queen, Prince Charles, everybody. And so, in fact, my first birthday was on Prince Charles and Princess Diana's wedding day. So, yeah, my mum really holds the royal family very, very dearly. And it's not entirely clear why. I think it's a spillover from the old days of colonialism and a bit of subtle imperialism that creeps into all of us when it comes to royal family too.
All right, good stuff. I'll come back to you in a moment, Francesca. Those of you watching, if you want to call us up, it's country code 44 2070 83 72 72. We've got guests here with us at Buckingham Palace, as you've seen, guests in Delhi and New York. Now let's bring in Chow Tole, who's a presenter with Capital FM in Nairobi, a fantastic radio station. Chow, welcome to the program. I understand your mum used to be an ambassador for Kenya and that you actually met the Queen.
Yeah, that's correct. I met the Queen in 1999. I had to jog my memory a little bit. But I was in college in Japan at the time, and she came home one day and said, you know, I have to go for a meeting to Seoul, South Korea, because, you know, Japan, when she was in Japan, she also covered South Korea. And I said, what are you going to do? She said, oh, you know, the Queen has asked to meet all the ambassadors and their spouses. And I told her, well, you don't have a spouse. How about you take me? And she, you know, I bugged her. Let's just say I bugged her pretty much for the next 2 weeks. And every single day she came back from work, I would ask her, so what did they say? Can I come? And I finally ended up going as, you know, her accompaniment.
Right. And was it good fun?
Oh, it was amazing. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, it was amazing. It was a lot of fun. It was interesting because of course everybody was there with their spouse and everything. You read about the Queen, you know that she is the Queen, you know there's the institution of the monarchy. And, you know, I'd practiced my curtsies. I had gone to a very Catholic high school where you learn how to be proper. So I was like, okay, I'm going to be on my best behavior. But you're a teenager. I was just 18, and well, you think that the world is your oyster. But yes, you do.
Sorry to cut a quote.
But when
you
she
do have to
walked
be on your best
in
behavior.
Sorry?
You go ahead, Chow. We've got a slight delay here. You go ahead, and then I'll say something. Oh, you go ahead.
All right. Well, yeah, like I said, so when she came by, I mean, you know, everybody protocol-wise, everybody came around and said hello. But when she came, she stopped by us. And I remember saying, okay, do your curtsy, don't fall. And I did it. And she said hello, and she was extremely warm. I cannot forget the warmth that emanated from her. I didn't expect that. I really didn't. So that was great.
Very interesting.
That was absolutely great.
I remember a long, long time ago, my dad got the chance to go to a garden party where the Queen was going to be attending, and he received this huge document, pages and pages and pages of it, telling you how to behave when you meet the Queen. There are lots and lots of rules. But Francesca, let's bring you in here. I mean, I'm sure the Queen is a lovely woman. I've never met her, but that doesn't necessarily warrant 4 days of extravagant celebrations. Why does she deserve this?
I think she's getting it because she is the Queen, and she's done a good job for 60 years. And I think everywhere I go, especially when I go to America, they always ask me, do I know the Queen? Do I drink tea? And she is a representation of what to be British is. And I think 4-day celebration doesn't hurt, and it also means bank holidays. So to
That's
me,
good.
I think
You don't get to work either.
Yeah.
I was reading one document which was listing all the places the Queen's been in the last 60 years. Those of you in Canada, she's visited you 22 times, which is pretty impressive. I'm wondering if you're glad about that. You can email us, worldhaveyoursay@bbc.com. You'll also see the hashtag on the screen as we go along. Now, one way that people end up on World Have Your Say is that you email the BBC and we get back to you. And Mark, who's a civil servant, did just that. He joins us now from central London. Hi, Mark. I know you're speaking to us in a personal capacity, not on behalf of the civil service. For those people, and frankly, that's most people who didn't read your email, tell us what it said.
I want to make the point, really, this is why I'm here, is it's the principle of fairness. I think in a modern democratic country, any position should be open to any individual and no one should be excluded on their background. And the second point, really, is the accountability of the Queen, is that she simply isn't accountable. In a modern government, she should be. For example, MPs in the House of Commons can't even openly criticise the Queen. They cannot debate her performance in the House of Commons. And I think in a modern country, that isn't right.
Well, Nelson, let's bring you in on that.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I think probably the best Diamond Jubilee present the Queen could offer to the country is to offer to stand for elections. I believe that in a modern society such as ours...
Nelson, are you really suggesting an elected Queen?
Yeah,
Isn't that a contradiction in terms?
I love the Queen and I love my country, of course, but I love democracy and meritocracy a little bit more. And I think that in a society as mature as ours and as advanced as ours, that we go around the world, we bomb for human rights and we bomb for democracy too. I think we should actually have at least a full democracy in our nation too.
Have you thought about who you might get? You might end up with a Queen that you don't want.
I'll vote for Peter Tatchell to be our king, and I think he would do very well.
Let me bring you back in, Mark. I mean, in all seriousness, are you suggesting there's an elected Queen, or are you simply suggesting get rid of this institution?
I say we should have elected head of state. I'll take back to the point about if you get someone you don't want. We could get someone we don't want, but if you get someone we don't want, we can't do nothing about it. With an elected head of state, if we get someone we don't want, then we can get rid of them. That's the difference.
Well, Mark, we appreciate you emailing us and coming in. Those of you watching, we're live here just by Buckingham Palace. Don't think that the fact it's gone a bit quiet doesn't mean that people aren't busy. There are several hundred men and women working very, very hard getting this whole area in front of Buckingham Palace ready for big events on Monday and Tuesday. We're going to take a break just for a moment here on BBC World News, and then we'll keep on talking about Queen Elizabeth and why she remains so popular. Well, let's look through a number of the comments that are coming in. Let's cross to Bush House and the World Have Your Say team and hear what we've got.
It's been a very busy few minutes. The phone lines have been rammed with people getting in touch with us. Some of the latest places: Kenya, Mauritius, Italy, Afghanistan. As you say, a lot of comments coming in on Facebook too. Plenty of people talking about the royal family's wealth and saying that actually they don't feel that comfortable with the royal family at a time when lots of people around the world struggling with austerity and poverty. Staff in Uganda posted, the people who live under the Queen's rule still live in the Stone Age. But many others agreeing with this comment from Paul in London. He says, I am a big fan of the Queen, Prince Charles and the monarchy. They give so much more than they take and they are great for Britain. Keep the comments coming on Facebook and on Twitter as well. We're on WHYS.
Indeed, Maddie, and remember you can hear World Have Your Say's radio edition in a couple of hours. bbcworldservice.com. Well, we're back at Buckingham Palace. We had a lovely time down here just over a year ago when William and Kate got married, and there's just about the same amount of interest in 4 days of celebrations for Queen Elizabeth and her Diamond Jubilee. She's marking 60 years on the throne. Now, we're really concentrating not just on why she's popular here in Britain. Perhaps those of you watching would expect that, but she's also hugely popular around the world, and we're trying to understand why. Let's pull up a message here that's come in from Yuling in China. They've emailed saying, I'm originally from China, my boyfriend is from France. We are so proud to be part of the Jubilee celebration. We're going to spend the whole Jubilee weekend in London to soak up the atmosphere. To us, this is what living in the UK is all about. I mean, that is a strange thing, Francesca. A Frenchman, a Chinese woman, and they're enthusing about Queen Elizabeth. Does that strike you as strange or not?
It doesn't, because I think that we're unique in that we have a queen, and as much as people may not like her and they think that she's old school, there's a generational gap, she's been here for as long as I can remember, and she hasn't brought any harm to me living in the UK or people I know in my family come originally from Nigeria. And I think she's a representation of what it is to be British and to celebrate everything that is British, and I think that's a good thing. So it's not very strange at all.
All right, let's bring in McCaw in New York, because McCaw, you sound very excited by all of this. How much is to do with the Queen and how much is perhaps to do with William and Kate? Have they kick-started interest in the royals again?
She did, and I have to tell you, I'm really excited about everything about Kate. I mean, we have this Duchess of Cambridge who is making big waves for wearing the same outfit twice. Like, that's news to us. And I just love her sense of humility. I love her sense of fashion. And I love her commitment to her now-to-be husband, William. I wanted to point out another thing, that I'm originally from Zimbabwe. I was born in Zimbabwe. So part of the interest for the Queen, for me, was, you know, from the time I was born in the 80s, Zimbabwe has had an interesting relationship with the monarchy. As you know, things are quite tense with Robert Mugabe and the Queen as we stand right now. But on a personal level, I've just grown to love the monarchy. So I'm really excited about the new Queen, not the new Queen, hopefully Catherine will be the new Queen, but I'm excited about the Duchess of Cambridge. Everything that she represents, kind of this Renaissance woman, I think she speaks to a lot of women, that you can still be fabulous, you can still be smart and have a family at the same time. So I'm really, she really, really brings that energy that the whole Jubilee represents to me at this juncture in 2012.
You're going to have to wait a long time for a new Queen. Everyone remembers how long the Queen Mum lived for. I suspect the lady living behind us here in Buckingham Palace will be head of the monarchy for a long time to come. And Chow, you're in Nairobi. Let's bring you in as well. How much of this is about the Queen, or do you think that William and Kate have brought younger people into having an interest in the monarchy?
It's funny that you talk about the generational gap that was being talked about earlier on. I think they have sparked an interest for at least younger people to look at the monarchy, because these are people that you can relate to. They're your age, younger or older, give or take. They're people who, fine, yes, they are, you know, royals, but they do stuff that you do. So in a way, you relate. It is relatable. Of course, with the Queen, you know, she would seem removed, but on a personal level, I have to come back to that. Because I met her, she really just seems like the nicest person. I mean, I wanted to hug her, and that's not even protocol. I mean, they would probably have thrown me out, but that's the memory that I have. So on a personal note, I can understand and I feel, you know, and remember the Queen's genuine warmth and discussion. But William and Kate have indeed sparked an interest in the monarchy, the young royals, and of course Prince Harry, his younger brother as well. So yes, they have.
Well, Chow, from you in Nairobi, let's bring Ratchet in Delhi back in. Ratchet, you were referring to the Commonwealth. There are 54 countries which belong to it, and Queen Elizabeth is the head of the Commonwealth. One of those 54 countries is your own, India. So do you wish that would change? Would you like to leave the Commonwealth?
No, I don't want to leave the Commonwealth. I would certainly want India to be part of the Commonwealth. It's our own fault that we don't participate in the Commonwealth as our own, because I think there's a Commonwealth Diamond Jubilee Fund also, and countries like Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and other smaller countries, smaller to us, are contributing into that. But I don't know why. We are not very active in Commonwealth. We had the Commonwealth Games in 2009. It was spectacular. Prince Charles visited us, but the Queen couldn't. I don't know. There is some kind of a disconnect between our generation and the people and maybe the monarchy in a sense. And this disconnect makes me think that somehow we don't know it. I mean, most of us don't know it. I work in Delhi.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
I was just going to also mention that those of you watching, if you're particularly interested in the Commonwealth, as soon as I'm finished here on World Have Your Say's TV edition, I'm going to walk a few hundred metres down the road to Trafalgar Square, and just off Trafalgar Square is Northumberland Avenue, and on that street you will find the Royal Commonwealth Society, a very auspicious organisation, and it's holding its Jubilee party this evening. World Have Your Say's radio edition is on the guest list, which is fantastic. So if you'd like to listen in and hear me mingling with the guests and speaking to them about the Commonwealth, what it is, what it's going to become, then do join us. You can listen to it live about an hour and a half or so's time at bbcworldservice.com. Now I can see here we've got calls coming in from Nigeria, Ghana, Afghanistan, Malta, Zimbabwe, Uganda and Zambia. Here's Abutu in Nigeria tweeting us: "Truth is, we really don't need monarchy around the world anymore. The British monarchy is colourful, though, and it promotes tourism." And Lady Mr. Grills tweets: "I live in France, and today I was wearing all Union Jack clothes for the Diamond Jubilee. God save the Queen and all of us." Well, I mean, let's talk about that, Nelson. The comment from Nigeria: we don't need monarchies anymore. You come on World Have Your Say quite regularly, pushing for human rights, pushing for meritocracies, pushing for democracy. How do you put your enthusiasm for a monarchy alongside all of that?
It's a conflict between two of them, because I suppose I was born and raised into this, into our culture, into the way in which our nation's actually presided over. Obviously, the Queen's more ceremonial than anything else. But if I was actually forced to choose between the two of them, then I'll most certainly go with meritocracy and democracy and yeah, and a free and fair society.
You don't feel like you have to make that choice?
And at the moment, I do not feel that I'm not forced to make that choice. The Queen doesn't have the Queen's more symbolic, but what she symbolises, when I look at it totally objectively, is a degree of lack of fairness, a degree of lack of social justice within our society, a degree in which certain people are just born into certain positions and can rise to the top as a result of who they were born, as a result of who their parents were. And it doesn't just stop with the Queen. The Queen is ceremonial, she's probably the smallest part of it, but it cuts right the way across our society. It cuts into business, cuts into politics, cuts into entertainment, everything too. So yeah.
So let's bring in McCall and ask the same question, McCall. Why, if you are enthusiastic about democracy and meritocracy, do you have so much enthusiasm for a family who, you know, Prince Charles is who he is, not because of how hard he's worked or because of his ability, simply because of who his mum is?
Yeah, you know what? I'd be lying if I said that I didn't have a problem with that. I do have a problem with the monarchy in the sense that, you know, you're born into this family and you acquire this wealth and you acquire all these privileges that the normal person, that McCall in New York would not have the ability to have. So there's a part that I frown on. But you know what? I am a pageant girl. So I know it sounds really superficial, but I am a pageant girl and I appreciate the pomp and circumstance and everything else that the monarchy represents. It's a little bit of a fantasy, right? You know, this world that they live in, all this wealth and all these opportunities that they have. And on a very kind of basic level, you kind of live vicariously through them. And I think that's what most people resonate with. That's what most people enjoy. But I would be lying to you if I said I didn't feel some sort of angst or some sort of, you know, some sort of feeling about that, the fact that they are just born into this and there's no way out of it.
And McCall, just quickly, we've only got a few seconds. There's lots of pageantry over the next few days. Which bit would you most like to take part in?
You know what? I want to get on the carriage. I am so excited to get on the carriage. I don't know. I've seen all the Queen's carriages. I was reading an article in Glamour UK, and I'm excited to see the one that she's going to get on. So I just want to get on that and those horses.
It's a very old carriage. It was first used over 100 years ago. I've got some bad news for you, though. I think you might struggle to get into the carriage. I think about 3 people in the last 100 years have managed it. We're going to keep on talking about Queen Elizabeth and why she remains so popular all around the world, and why those of you who are enthusiastic about democracy and meritocracy also love Queen Elizabeth. Do stay with us here on BBC World News. Well, that is the balcony on Buckingham Palace, where on Tuesday, Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip will greet many thousands of fans, helping her to finish the celebrations of 60 years on the throne for her. And as you can hear, some of the preparations are already underway for Monday night's concert. And really, London is hosting 4 days of extraordinary celebrations of the Diamond Jubilee. On today's World Have Your Say, we're trying to understand why it is that not just Brits are getting excited about this, but lots of people, including one of the loudest slap bass players I've ever heard. He's very keen on the Queen's Diamond Jubilee. But if you're watching around the world, are you keen on it too? I hope you want to get in touch. The hashtag's on the screen, the number is as well, and the email's worldhaveyoursay@bbc.com. Peter, thank you very much indeed. Well, for most of the programme, I was hoping the rehearsals would stop, but actually I was quite enjoying that one. A band producing a very good instrumental version of Grace Jones's Slave to the Rhythm. And if you are watching, I haven't actually seen Grace Jones on the list of people who are going to be appearing on Monday. So Grace, if you're watching, it's not too late to get involved. Paul McCartney, Stevie Wonder, Robbie Williams, lots and lots of big acts who are going to be appearing on the stage right behind me in front of 10,000 people who don't just get a ticket to come to this concert, they also get to go for a picnic in the gardens of Buckingham Palace. But that is on Monday. Let's keep on talking about the Queen's popularity around the world. We've got a couple of guests in Canada we can bring in. Fawzi and Shalini are with us. Fawzi, you're a student. Shalini, you have a role with the Royal Commonwealth Society. Good to have both of you on World Have Your Say. Tell us your feelings about the Diamond Jubilee.
Well, I'll start. The Diamond Jubilee here in Canada means a lot to us. It's 60 years of the Queen being head of the monarch, and we've been celebrating here. We've had our gala dinner last couple of weeks with the RCS, and the Governor General attended and gave some medals, Jubilee medals, to some of our colleagues. We've had the National Student Commonwealth Forum last month, and we brought over 70 students from across Canada to Ottawa for a week, and of course we shared the news of the Jubilee with them, and they took it back to their respective provinces. And we've launched a new initiative called My Commonwealth, which seeks to educate Canadian youth on the Commonwealth and the Queen, and you know, on also the modern Commonwealth and what the future holds as well.
And I'm interested to hear from both of you.
Oh, so we actually use the Jubilee as a launching pad, as Fawzi said, for a lot of our new initiatives. We're really trying to push youth initiative with the Commonwealth, trying to get Canadian youth involved. And we're really excited about the Jubilee. I mean, I personally find the Queen inspirational. I think she has a presence and a way of bringing people around the world together, not just across the Commonwealth, but I was listening in earlier, and people from China were talking about how excited they were. And I think it's a really great initiative this year, and it's a really good launching pad here in Canada for the youth to take initiative and get involved with the Commonwealth and everything that we can do.
Well, very good to have you both on World Have Your Say. Just before I pull up an email from Dave in the UK, let me bring in Francesca and Nelson, because Francesca, we heard Shalini there saying the Queen's wonderful at uniting people, bringing people together. All the Queen ever does is remain entirely neutral. She hardly ever says anything for something or against something. That's her job. I'm not criticising her, but why does she deserve all this praise for unifying people when really she's an incredibly neutral presence?
But she does actually still bring people together. I was saying to Nelson earlier, my church is predominantly African, and yet they're deciding to have a street party on Sunday for the Jubilee because it's an opportunity to engage with the community. It's an opportunity for people to come together. So her neutrality maybe is what brings people together, but it's a good thing in the world we live in today, creating an opportunity and a space for people to actually just come together and celebrate sometimes what's good in the world.
All right, Francesca, thank you very much indeed. Now, I was promising you that message from Dave. Let me read that to you right now. He says, I most definitely will not be celebrating the ongoing inequality in our country represented by the hereditary power and privilege of the royal family. And as if to match the anger of that email, we've got someone rehearsing Robbie Williams' Let Me Entertain You, which is, I'm not planning when the music comes in, by the way. I'm not choreographing it with the emails. Mark, let me bring you in. You're also with us from London. You've been sceptical as well about this. What about Nelson's point earlier that you don't have to choose between a democracy and a monarchy?
Sorry, can you repeat that? Sorry. Ross, can you repeat that, please?
Sorry, Mark, if you didn't hear me. I was just wondering whether why do you have to choose between a monarchy and a democracy? Can't you have the two institutions sitting next to each other?
I think, no, they're not exclusive. They can run side by side. And this country clearly is a democratic country. I'm not saying it isn't a democratic country. We can improve it and make it more democratic. That's what I'm saying.
Mark, thank you very much indeed. Chow, let me bring you in. I'm not sure whether I'll be able to hear you, but everyone watching will be able to. Are you going to be celebrating over the weekend? Will there be big Jubilee lunches, as Nelson was saying there are going to be in Nigeria?
I'm sure on a personal level there are going to be people having Jubilee lunches. I'm personally going to be watching the celebrations, like I'm sure pretty much everybody else around the world is going to be doing. We had a sort of commemoration about 2 or 3 weeks ago our station, Capital FM, had a Jubilee period where for about 8 weeks, we're educating Kenyans on, how important, well, the Jubilee, the Queen and her ascension, and of course, its relevance to Kenyans. It's part of our history. So I think if they're not going to be huge celebrations, it's going to be people in front of their TVs, watching, listening to the music that I can hear being rehearsed behind you throughout, just trying to be a part of history in that way.
Chow, thank you very much indeed. Sandra's emailed us from, sorry, Sandra, you've called us from Jamaica. Thanks for tuning in. I like the Queen and the Jubilee, but as Jamaicans, nothing is offered to us. There are many restrictions on our travelling. What are the benefits for us to be in the Commonwealth these days? Well, let's pick that up immediately with Francesca and Nelson. Whenever I travel to sub-Saharan Africa with the BBC, lots of people come up to me and say, why does Britain make it so hard for me to visit the country?
That it's a bit of a two-way street. Again, it's a small country, we're economically rich, a lot of people like to come here. And I think Britain's has become a much richer country as a result of people coming here. So immigration's worked well for us, and I wish our borders were open a little bit more.
I tell you what now, so while this guy's doing his guitar solo, let me go back to Chow. Chow, talk to me about the Queen herself. Do you think that when she dies, and we hope it won't be anytime soon, but when she dies, perhaps the connection with the monarchy in Kenya will also begin to dwindle?
No, I don't think so. I think that it will, I think people will remember her, but I think one way will be strengthened, and I'm pretty sure, I'm just putting this out there, but one way in which it will be strengthened and continue to be strengthened is when her family members travel. I know that we've had Prince Edward come to Kenya on a number of occasions with the British Council. So there is that connection in one way or another. And like I said, it's the age of the internet. It's the age of, everything is digital. So we have, everybody watching Prince William and the Duchess of Cambridge's wedding, Princess Catherine. So I don't think it's going to dwindle. I think it's going to take on another form. I don't think it's going to dwindle.
I think something that must be said also too is that we should be very grateful to, and the monarchy should be very grateful to, that some of the atrocities of empire didn't take place in this age. Because if they did, then the monarchy and Britain as a society altogether would be viewed in a very, very different light. Similar to what happened, it was revealed in The Guardian a couple of months ago about the atrocities of the British Empire in Kenya, in which close to 1.8 million people were kept in an open-air prison, which led to mass graves and mass atrocities being carried out. And it was carried out under pretty much Elizabeth's rule, or under Elizabeth's reign. And it's some of the things that are swept under the carpet. And again, of course, it's not directly Elizabeth, obviously she's ceremonial, but nonetheless, it's still pretty much something that would have been associated with her if it was in this day and age. So yeah.
Let me pull up a few of the messages here that you're coming in with. Jet is watching us in the Philippines. Hi, Jet. Thanks for your call. Why are the tweets you're featuring on BBC World News fairly negative? It's quite disconcerting. I don't know if that's true, Jet. We've read some which are negative. I think the majority are positive, which reflects the cross-section of comment that's come into the BBC. Hazib in Pakistan called us to say, I'm definitely celebrating. Britain is at a great advantage because people unite for events like this. Some countries like Saudi don't like their monarchy as much as the British. And Slaviana in Minsk has just tweeted to say, the Queen is classy. She embodies what the world likes about Britain. Is that true, Francesca? She might be in for a shock if she came for London, because if you like the Queen and you come to London, you maybe get two different things, right?
I think she embodies a part of what Britain is about, but Britain's so much more than the Queen, and I think she's an important part of it, but she's not all of it.
Thank you very much. We've got calls coming in from Canada, Japan and Jamaica. We're getting an awful lot. We'll answer as many as we possibly can. We've got a bit of peace and quiet here at Buckingham Palace, so why don't we take a break, and by the time we come back, I'm sure the music will have started again. Speak to you in a moment. I'm Ross Atkins, welcome back to World Have Your Say, just by Buckingham Palace. I think it's normally a bit quieter for the royal family when they're at home over there, but they won't mind because these are rehearsals for their party. It's the Queen's Diamond Jubilee. The whole country is celebrating 60 years of her on the throne, and of course you're going to get extensive coverage of that here on BBC World News TV and on BBC World Service Radio. And I should say, before we carry on the conversation, as you've been putting up with rehearsals, you can actually hear the real thing, the whole Diamond Jubilee concert, with me on BBC World Service Radio on Monday, and you can get details of the times online. Now, before we go back to our guests, let me pull up a couple of the messages that you've sent in. Here's one from Pam in Queensland, who says, I'll be wearing my tiara, and of course we will all be in red, white and blue. I'm English and I'll be very homesick. Long live the Queen. And Jeff in Kenya says, and this really responds to your point, Nelson, the UK has been a close ally to this nation. God bless the Queen. And Macau, you're with us from New York, but you're originally from Zimbabwe. Do you think that is part explains people's connection, that they see the Queen as being symbolic of what Britain has brought to their country?
You know, as we know, Zimbabwe was colonized by the British, and we've had a long, terse history, you know, as the way things stand between Zimbabweans and the British monarchy, they're not in good standing. So part of my awareness of the Queen and awareness of the monarchy comes from that sort of colonialism. But everything is not roses, right? I don't have this perfect view of the Queen, and I'm sure a lot of Zimbabweans don't. And I think someone brought up the point about, you know, immigration being difficult, the path to getting to the UK being a difficult one. So a lot of Zimbabweans can attest to that, living in the UK or trying to get to the UK. But on the other hand, we do appreciate, like I said, the energy and the monarchy and sort of the pomp and circumstance that's surrounding the Queen. So it's a very difficult, kind of complicated situation to try to explain.
And of course, the other thing that's worth mentioning is that Zimbabwe used to be a member of the Commonwealth, but it was kicked out because of some of the things which Robert Mugabe was accused of doing. So at the moment, it's not a member of the Commonwealth. We've had calls from Tanzania, Gambia and Pakistan in the last few minutes. Mwasa has tweeted, in Rwanda, as a new Commonwealth entrant, many people are following the lead up to the Jubilee with excitement. What's interesting about Rwanda is it's a member of the Commonwealth, despite not being a former colony of Britain. And someone calling themselves Mad Cow has tweeted, if the UK does away with the monarchy, I fear it will take away the prime reason for millions of tourists to visit the UK. Well, let's bring in Mark to talk about that, because Mark, you've been expressing some scepticism, but what about that argument? The Queen does pay you back because millions of people come to stand just behind where I am right now.
I think it's a very, very dubious argument. The extra bank holiday this year alone is costing 2.3 billion. The one last year cost 2.3 billion. That's 4.6 billion we need to make up on tourism. That's not going to happen. And when people go abroad, people still visit Versailles, they visit Paris. It's a republic. People are more bothered about the history, I think, and not that there happens to be a monarch living there at the time. I don't think it stands up.
Okay. Mark, thank you very much indeed. Let's switch from London to the British Virgin Islands. Katie is joining us. She's an administrator with a charity there. Hi, Katie. Tell us if you're celebrating, and if you are, how you're doing it.
Hi there. Thank you so much for having me. I'll be celebrating on Sunday by going to the Big Lunch, which we're holding here in the British Virgin Islands on Virgin Gorda. It'll be the first time that we celebrate the Big Lunch here in the British Virgin Islands. So I'm really looking forward to that. And on Monday, we have a big Queen's Parade to focus on the Jubilee. And the Virgin Islands Search and Rescue that I work for will have crew members marching in that parade. And the police and fire and rescue and the Girl Guides and a whole bunch of people will be in that parade.
Casey, I'm going to jump in just because we're right up to the end of the programme. It sounds like you're going to have a lovely time. The one thing you can be sure of is good weather, if only that were true here in the UK. Let's pull up one last message here. This is from the Daily Mirror newspaper. It's warned its readers, long to reign over us. Tropical storm Beryl threatens to dampen the Queen's Diamond Jubilee spirits. Well, it's true, the forecast for Sunday in that flotilla, 1,000 boats, is absolutely terrible, but the Mirror should know better than that. British people never get too worried about the weather, do they, Francesca? The weather won't stop us doing anything.
No, it won't. We're used to rain anyway, in case it does rain.
Absolutely, same thing here with the party anyway. Yeah. Dance in the rain.
We have our umbrellas on hand.
And rain or shine, you will see all of the celebrations for the Queen's Diamond Jubilee here on BBC World News. You can also listen to coverage on BBC World Service Radio. Thanks very much for your company. Hope you enjoyed the rehearsal tune. I'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
Tjocki tigrar tar upp.